So while I was visiting my friend Wyatt in Tennessee, we stopped at the small town that's near him, and I purchased this box of wire for $30. So when the guy offered to sell it to me, I did pick it up and tried to factor the weight, and I thought it was about 35 pounds. So I started doing some math in my head, and I said, even if I only got number 2 for this, that's $1.50 a pound. So at 30 pounds, that would give me $45, and I could make $15 on a 2-minute transaction just for turning it in as it is. Now, the reason that I did that is because I didn't have a magnet with me. I could have got one, but I thought maybe this might be tinned, this really thick stuff, which this piece was cut off of here. But it's not. It's completely non-magnetic, and as I cut into it, I see that it is all copper. So I would get definitely number 1 pricing for that, probably number 1 pricing for this without doing anything to it, and then there's Romex in there, which I would definitely get better pricing for. So at even 30 pounds, I'm figuring that this would have been closer to $60 rather than 45. So I'm making $45 to $60 in a 2-minute transaction. But the more I look at this, the more I realize there's more money in here. I usually don't buy wire or scrap in my videos. So I explained to him the price that I'm looking at here, and as I was talking with him, I realized that it's going to be substantially more if I put some more work into it. So I can turn a $45 or $60 box into a lot more if I spend an hour cleaning this stuff up. So I don't like stripping this type of number 1 wire. I just don't think it's worth it. But I will take the outer sheath off, and then I'll have number 1 here and here, and then I'll have Bear Brite. This thick stuff here, I will take the sheathing off and I will strip that out. So that is enough for me to strip. So I've got Bear Brite plus more Bear Brite. This is going to take a little bit of time. That's a pretty long roll. Oh, and by the way, I weighed this out, and without the cardboard box, it is 42 pounds. So worst case scenario, at number 2 pricing for this box, it is $60. So I've already doubled my money just without doing anything, and actually more because I'd get number 1 and not number 2 price. So what I'm going to do, just for the sake of showing Wyatt as well as myself and the viewers what kind of money can I get out of this just by putting in a bit more effort and stripping it down to where I want to strip it. This here, I will take the sheathing off, but I am not going to take the number 1 wire and turn it into Bear Brite there. This stuff, same thing, that's just not thick enough. But this stuff here, for sure, this is all going to be stripped, and all of that will become Bear Brite pricing. So my pricing right now, and the reason that I'm doing this video, is I'm going to go to the small scale today. I've already got other stuff, so I'm going to weigh all this out, and I can tell you exactly what it was all worth in the end. But the pricing that I got last week was $2 for number 1 and $3.58 for Bear Brite. So let's see what we can turn this $30 box of wire into just by putting in a little bit of work. So after sorting out just what was in the box and calculating what it is as it sits without doing any work so far, I ended up with about 15 pounds of what I consider to be number 2. I've never actually turned in Romex as it is. I've always stripped it down at least through the outer layer. So there might be a different price for that, but I'm just going to say that's number 2 pricing. And then over here, this stuff I'm going to count as number 1, even though it's not stripped on the outer layer, because I'm pretty sure that they're going to count that as number 1. It is thick enough wire in there, and they're very good to me about that when it comes to cashing in my wire. So for that reason, I ended up with approximately, I think it was 24 pounds of number 1. And then I had a few ounces of Bear Brite in the box as well. So overall, by my calculations on the pricing that I got last week, I came up with 72 bucks. So $30 box turned into $72 without having to do anything. So now I'm going to go ahead and strip this down a little bit, and then I'll get you the time that I put into it as well as the value that I ended up with in the end. Okay, so after an hour and a half of work, which was the archaic way, I don't have a great setup, I ended up using my wire stripper on this stuff, on this really thick stuff, but for all the Romex type, I just ended up pulling it through the casing by taking one of the wires and just pulling it all the way through and then separating everything out. So with the number one, I ended up with 9 pounds altogether there. And the other stuff that I ended up with was all bear braid. So all that bear braid ended up being about 23 pounds. And then all the casings, all the waste, minus the weight of the cardboard box, is 9 pounds. So I lost 9 pounds there. But in the end, I ended up with the 9 pounds. That came out to $17.64. And then for the 23 pounds of bear braid, I ended up with $82.34. So I increased my overall value from $72 to $100 because I get $3.58 for the bear braid. I get $1.96 for the number one. And the only stuff I ended up with was this little bit of number two that I found in here. And this stuff has so much garbage in it that the difference between number one and number two is only 40 cents. It is not worth taking all that garbage out. I'll just let them count that part as number two. So $100. So 72 is what I started out with to do nothing but sort it out. And $28 is what I ended up gaining by stripping it all. That took me an hour and a half. So that came out to about $18.66 per hour. So that was definitely worth my time. I don't think it's worth stripping this type of number one, especially when it takes so long to do and you have to untangle it and everything else. But anyway, I'm digressing. That's why I don't like stripping this small stuff. And I do have some thicker material in here at the bottom, but even so, unless it's at least this thick, I don't strip it. I just send it in. Even though there's $1.50 a pound difference, it's just not worth it to me. But it was definitely worth to get that 23 pounds. So all in all, a very good return on my investment. $30 turned into 72 in 2 minutes and then turned into 100 with an extra hour and a half worth of work. So just thought that'd be interesting to Wyatt, since I know he watches the video, of what I ended up getting, and to some of the viewers. So I was really interested in seeing how this turned out. I know people had done comparisons on whether or not it's worth it or not, but I just wanted to see what I could do with my $30 investment. So thank you for watching. Leave your comments below, and I'll talk to you later.